Hi guys, my name is Haley J, and I am making a video all about the things I do when I feel anxious or when I feel just not in the best headspace. And I do this for myself as well because I find it's really hard to remember the things that make us feel better. When we're in those moments, it just feels like you're so lost and it's hard to get back to your sense of self. But if there are videos or if you keep notes, things like that, they're very helpful to just look back to in those moments. And for me, nothing is more powerful or more affirmative than when I hear it from myself. And it's kind of this reminder of like, oh yeah, this came right from me. And then you can't deny that you're not capable when you're the one giving yourself that advice again. So this is for me, and this is for everyone else who's interested. Of course I took notes, because I would forget. So the first thing I want to say is when you wake up and maybe it's first thing in the morning, maybe it's anxiety that you feel throughout the day. I used to get so mad at myself about it, and I would be like just really annoyed, thinking, why is my body against me? Why is my brain against me? Like, what is it in me that's pulling myself down? And a great therapist actually had me do this exercise where she separated my anxiety from who I was. And that's key. You are not your anxiety. It's a feeling that you're having, but you don't have to put yourself in this like harsh category. If I'm just such an anxious person, you experience anxiety, that is not who you are. And I actually named my anxiety Carol. No idea why. No offense to anyone named Carol. It has no meaning. It was just the first name that came to my head, but she had me actually put my anxiety Carol in a different seat in my car. And I used to take therapy from my work break. So I was in my car at the time, and she would actually have me move seats. She would have me sit in the passenger seat, then move back to the driver's seat. I was parked. And it was just practicing talking to my anxiety, removing it from me and talking to it. And just, she put me through these exercises of like, okay, what would you say? And what do you think your anxiety is trying to do? And it helped me become friends with my anxiety and realize that it wasn't this enemy, that my anxiety thought she was helping me. And do you ever have like a parent or a sibling or a friend even that you can tell they mean well, but it's just like, it's not it. Like the way they're showing up is not exactly helping, but you're like, I know they're coming from a good place. It's that. So it's just like understanding, okay, maybe the way my body or brain thinks it's protecting me is not helpful, but the thought is genuine to protect you, if that makes any sense. So just don't be mean to yourself. I just wanted to reiterate that your body or your brain does think it's helping, and it goes back to years and years ago of when our body, still to this day, think that when we get overwhelmed and get too many emails, or our phone stresses us out, or if we get in a fight with a friend or significant other, our body responds the same way with that flight or fight in your nervous system, thinking that you were literally being chased by an animal that could kill you. And on one hand, it's super frustrating to think that we have not caught up by now, that our bodies still react that way. But it's just the time in which we live in, where technology is advancing rapidly. Human beings are not equipped to keep up with it. So if you get really stressed out when you're on your phone all day, or if you wake up and you're on your Instagram, TikTok, and just these like really stimulating things first thing in the morning, yeah, no wonder you're gonna feel off, because you haven't even given yourself a chance to open your eyes, to breathe, to relax. So just be nice to yourself and recognize that you feel this way for a reason. And instead of pushing away that anxiety, try and tap into what it's showing you and what it actually is trying to protect you from. So that's the first thing. You gotta be kinder to yourself. I think we can all do that, or we can all work on that. I think we all need to work on that, including myself. But I always start with the breath. So I just try and relax my nervous system. One thing that I find my anxiety stems from is when I'm trying to do too many things at once. And a lot of times the things on my mind are not that serious. It's just like, oh, need to email this person back, need to respond to this text, need to order this. You know, they're just little tasks that I have to do, but they just fill up in my brain, and it makes me feel like I'm so scattered of like all these little thoughts. And then when I multitask even more, for example, if I'm in the middle of a conversation and I'm also on my phone, my brain is listening to this person and not even listening to them, not even being present with them, doing something on my phone, likely doing something wrong because I'm doing it so quick, and my brain just feels like it goes just completely fries because it's just too much stimulation. So I have to remove that. So whenever I feel that I have just this intensity within, I go back to the breath. I personally I like to switch it up, different techniques of breathing, but my favorites right now are the inhale for 4, exhale for 8. So I'll do it with you right now. We go. And even right now, you can tell I've been talking. My breath is not even as flow and clear as I would like it to be, but it's okay. So I would breathe in for 4. And breathe out for 8, and then literally tighten, restrict your muscles so you can feel the belly moving and really getting that breath. Do it as many times as you want. And I just learned this one where I learned this in my yoga class, you put your fingers like this. Shout out my spray tan hand, sorry. So you do that, and then, okay, I have web tan, so it doesn't work as well, but basically it's kind of like this. Your fingers are supposed to touch right there, but essentially you plug one nostril, breathe in, and then you do it with the other, breathe out. My yoga teacher, shout out Hannah, told me that this helps to balance the left and right side of your brain. So it really is such a practice, whatever works for you. There's so many different types of calming yourself down. So I just recommend trying whatever makes you happy. And I did a lot of experimenting. I know tapping is a thing where you just tap different parts of your body. That one didn't really do much for me, but the breathing one in these exercises do. Or sometimes you can do a Jay Shetty did one where you focus and you just close all your fingers, one to the thumb, whatever it is, play with it, see what helps you. So just removing those distractions. Typically it's my phone. So if I have this pressure to respond to the group text, or maybe before I go to work, I want to just do this really quick on my phone. If I'm feeling this rushed energy, I know that it needs to wait, because I know it only is going to make it worse by me trying to rush and do all these things, because clearly, for whatever reason, a lot of times I don't even know the reason I feel anxious in the mornings, but I know all those stimulations going on at once are only gonna put me in a worse state of mind. So I really need to remove all distractions. And then a friend of mine actually recommended Reiki music, just this a calm Spotify playlist, Reiki, R-E-I-K-I, and that music makes me feel so good. It's basically what you would think of if you get a massage. It's very soft sounds, and I've been listening to that on my lunch break, and that just really helps me calm the mind. And I do have a job which I absolutely love, but it's very stimulating on camera. There's a lot of interaction, talking very quickly, there's a lot of multitasking. So for me to not lose my mind, I have to come back to slowing things down and not feeling like I have to be stuck in this mentality of go, 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 because it's really hard to turn off. And there's so many times when I just want to hit that switch, but there's just this internal go, 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 because I've been used to that for the last 8 hours of my day, that it takes a lot of work. And that's something I'm still working on, and not getting upset with myself when it's not so easy to turn it off, and just trying to remind myself of what the things are that can get me back to that. So for example, listening to that music, and it also helps me do everything else slower, because that music just calms down my heartbeat, which then calms down my pace in which I move, and just every little thing. That's something I work on, is just I'm rushing all the time, and I'm still trying to unpack really why that is that I do that. I've done it for as long as I can remember, but it's just this pressure of getting everything done in time, I guess. So that's something I'm still very much unpacking, and it's been a journey for my entire life, but I'm trying to get better and just give myself grace throughout the learning process. But another thing I do is to prioritize. So if I feel like I have a list of all these little things I need to do, I prioritize, what do I really need to do? And sometimes you do feel like you have to do all of it, but you can only start somewhere. So I try and remove what's not necessary. So it kind of goes with removing distractions. I need to focus on one thing at a time. So I will look at whatever I have, and typically there's 3 things that aren't necessary today. So I will say, okay, you know what? This is on my mind the heaviest that I want to complete. So I'll say, this is what I'm going to do on my break today, or this is what I'll do before I start my shift if I have a little time. So I try and just not put too much on my plate if it doesn't have to be there. And that's hard to be real about that, because it feels good to get things done. It feels good to check it off that list, but I realize there will always be something on the list. There will always be. You will never be done. Your brain, even when you do complete things, will always find things that it needs to do. So it's almost helping you realize that maybe there are things you tell yourself you need to do that you don't really need to do. So there's that. And then another thing I do is journaling, and it's funny, I put this in my first video that I made a couple years ago about healthy habits, and I wasn't a journaler, and I'll be honest, I don't do it every single night by any means, but I try and write down things that are on my mind that I want to take to therapy. I try and be really intentional in therapy. I don't want to just show up and say, oh, hey, I don't know what's going on. I want to really think about what I'm going to take to that session. So I try and always take notes to therapy and really discuss the reflections, and I want to get better. So for me, that means I have to put in work too. It's not just up to your therapist to challenge you and try and dig it out. Like, you have to do the work on yourself. No one is going to make the change that you want to make in you. It has to come from you. And if it doesn't, good luck. You have to want it. No one can want your well-being more than you do. So journaling, being intentional with what I'm trying to achieve in those sessions is very important. And I'll show you, I have this little book right here that, it's funny, I ordered this book on Amazon and I didn't even realize it said this on the outside, but it says, everything is gonna be all right. And whenever I catch myself in states of just like moving in a way that I don't wanna move, or it's anxious energy or just stiff, tight, whatever it is, like, you know yourself. And when you don't feel like yourself, I'm like, oh, what is this in me? I don't know, it's frustrating. So I keep notes that I write, and they're just little reflections, and some of them are like exercises I've done, and they just help me read back these thoughts that get me back to what I know. And it really helps me to center myself again. And it's just like, oh yeah, right, okay, I know that. An exercise I love to do, it's called Identify the Fear. So I write, what is the fear? And then I'll put, okay, what's the truth? And it's so funny to see how wild your thoughts can get. And then when you write them down on paper and challenge yourself to really put in front of you what your thoughts are doing, you realize just how much they don't make sense. And you're like, oh, I'm sitting here spiraling about a situation that's never happened. So your body too, it doesn't know the difference between something that has happened and hasn't happened. And we're human. I do this all the time. I've literally cried over situations that have not happened. It's just been a scary thought I had about whatever it could be in my life. And I've created conversations that didn't happen. And I've literally sat there and cried. And then I catch myself seeing myself cry over a situation that has not happened, and it all stems from fear. And I have to give myself grace, because I'll probably do that again in life. But when I write down my fear versus the facts of that fear, it really helps to bring me back to a place of, okay, we can take a deep breath. These things have not actually happened, and the monster is always bigger in your head than it is in reality. And it's very hard to remember that in moments, but it's true. So after that, another exercise I like to do was, it was from a card deck I got. Actually, it gave me this idea. It was this card deck called Calm the Chaos. I got this as a gift and I loved it. I love it. And it says, do your actions align with what you want? Do your desires match up? And I had to realize that they didn't. So it says you can only control your thoughts, words, and actions. So in that pink journal, I also did this where I wrote down my intention, and my intention was so cliche, I don't care, it's to be more present. And then I wrote down some of the thoughts I have and some of the actions I'm doing, and I realized the behaviors I'm showing are never gonna lead me to the desire that I want. So what actions can I do to get to that result? And I realized, and I did some digging in my background too, that when I worked in radio, I was surrounded by clocks everywhere. And I was also counting down the time where I could leave because I did the midnight shift and I was miserable. And I was in charge of the music for the radio station. So the timing was super important. And I remember if the music was off, say we were off by a song, so say we were running over or less for about 2 to 3 minutes, I was gonna have to call my boss at like from anywhere between midnight to 6 a.m. And that idea terrified me because I didn't want to wake up my boss and quite frankly piss him off. So I created this anxiety, and I've had this from a young age too. You don't need to know all the details, but there's just things that I'm like, oh, that's where I got that from, and that's why I'm kind of always having this urgency. But I just realized I had that relationship with time from that job, and then my current job, which I absolutely love, but we have clocks everywhere. And I thought, okay, what can I do to be more present without constantly thinking about what time it is? And I realized I can do something really simple. I can take sticky notes and literally cover the clock. So that's what I do. And it's just that small thing that has really helped me not only enjoy the moments a lot more, but just be there, because I'm not aware, and it's such a little thing, but the numbers staring at me, just, they take me away from the moment. So that's an example of something I did, but I only see those things when I write them down, and that's why it's so powerful for me to write them down and then to look back at them when I forget. And so even my phone, I have notes that say, look at this when you feel off, and I write things that make me feel better, whether it's music, whether it's call your sister, call this person, check in, or take a second to meditate, step away from your phone. All these things that I know help me feel better, I have to do them, and it is up to you to actually do them. You can say and wish for things all you want, but change is only going to happen when you make it happen. And I do believe that if you want something bad enough, you will do it. So are you brave enough to make that change? And that's my update. That's all I got for now. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and feel free to leave comments if you want to talk about anything further. And I am now a part of a podcast that just launched that I'm very excited about, called Becoming Her. I have 2 amazing co-hosts named Danny and Candy. That is available on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. So I'll link that below too. But any topics you want to discuss, I would love to bring it to the podcast and continue diving deeper. All right, guys, thank you so much.